When you think of popular music in America, you might be thinking of something like this. Or something like this. But what you probably didn't realize is this is part of it too. Video game music has cemented itself as a valid genre right along pop, rap, and rock. From a number standpoint, look at this. Alright, I hear you saying, one game has popular music. But what about this one? And this one. This one too. So I've already proven that the music is popular, but does that make it part of American popular music? I would argue that the artists make it so even more. Let's take a look at one of the ones I showed you earlier. Recognize this guy? How about these people? And I know you know this guy. In order to learn more about this facet of popular music, I interviewed two composers that have relevant experience in the field.
My name is Joshua Love, and so now I run a post-production sound company called Butterfly Temple Studio that is available in Toronto and in Cleveland.
All right, my name is Robert Arzola. I'm currently the composer for Tom Francis's Tactical Breach Wizards.
For me, it's been really like a very special connection because I didn't study music. Music wasn't something that like intrigued me with regard to like being in a class for it. I always feel like the music is more of it's like a tool of expression. It's like having a kind of a pen. And then once you have that pen, you need to have something to write. And so I think like this is a separation point, I think, for me personally. And I am mostly inspired by reading books and going into the park and going to do things, meeting interesting people, hanging out in very awkward or strange circumstances. And this becomes the fuel for music. So I feel like academically, being able to sit down and read some Hegel or Nietzsche, or, you know, get lost in a beautiful nonfiction text about something, it generally provides much more meat for the composing process than like going online and like finding some other composer that composed something else. You know what I mean?
I would think it affected it a lot. I ended up going to school for music a lot, for classical related stuff, and then I did film music for a master's. So it really affected it like a whole lot. Because at the time when I went to film scoring school, I guess, I didn't really know much of what I was doing, especially with DAWs like Logic and stuff like that. I was still kind of a newbie, and it really helped me get into that groove when getting out. And the musical background as well, like playing in orchestras and stuff, really helps with writing.
And so it's hard to say like when it switches over to the point where you know it, because it's like being funny. I think like when you're funny, you're just kind of funny from the get-go, and it's just in you. So there was always that drive to do the music, and I never felt like I was, you know, some savant or something. Like I never saw myself as like a special person that had something that other people didn't. It was really just more of being able to take these incredibly genuine and authentic emotions and then translate them into that sonic sphere. And, you know, when something makes you cry deeply, like down to the bone marrow, and then that's conveyed on the screen and other people can feel that as well, then that's when you are in a path of success.
I guess Tactical Breach Wizard's the current game I'm on. It's not a AAA game, but it's a well-known game that with a well-known developer with a big following, and I didn't realize how big it really was until there was an event. I think it was PC Magazine. They had a live event on YouTube and showed a lot of game trailers, and when our game came out with my music in it, people were really happy with it and all that. People were talking about it all over Twitter and such. So I was surprised. I'm thinking, oh wow, I guess I made it finally.
Hugely. I mean, and a lot of composers will just hear music in our heads constantly. You even hear things that have nothing to do with music. You might hear like a wind or like, just some white noise or pink noise coming from somewhere that just catches your sense of what's going on. And technology allows you to really dive in there and shape those things the way you want. It helps you to not necessarily need any particular kind of instrumentation or need even the skill set to play a particular instrument. So I have no idea how to play a cello, but I love a portamento cello. Like I love that sliding sound from one note to another. Just it really touches my soul. And being able to have access to those things without having the ability to play them is phenomenal, because it's like being a director or a conductor of an orchestra and kind of just mapping things out, and I need a little more of this and a little more of that, and then it helps you at some points to really invent certain sounds that you want to have in your piece, which can really specialize it as well.
It's funny how you asked that. My thesis kind of deals with my old thesis from my old master's deals with dealing with limitations in 8-bit music and 16-bit. It helped shape it a lot. It helped shape, I guess, the way I approached things for a while, for years. Even when I started working for Phantom Power, I would work on a 2015 MacBook Pro, and I wouldn't have a MIDI keyboard. I would use the regular keyboard on the laptop to write the music. Like do you use Logic?
FL Studio.
Okay. Like I don't know how FL Studio is, but Logic, you can bring up a little keyboard, like piano keyboard, and it shows you what keys on the keyboard you can press to play those notes, and that's what I did. And I would write out the stuff, and I ended up writing one of my better tracks on that, actually. And dealing with limited resources and things like that makes you just think differently how you're going to approach writing things and trying to catch up with everyone else, because everyone else has MIDI keyboards and studio setups and fader controllers for modulation and expression, and it makes you think outside of the box. And I think when I was very limited, I think that was when I was my most creative at the time, because I was just able to just go and do things. And don't get me wrong, my music is better now. It is better now. But back then, I think the limitations really unlocked a lot more. Sometimes I kind of miss that. Okay, so that's a question that I don't think a lot of people you probably talk to probably give you something very motivational, right? I'm more of I've become more of a realist about this because you're a student, correct? And you're hoping to do what we are doing. And what are your plans?
Oh, hopefully, get some placements in video games and maybe end up at a company job where with a salary just making music.
Where are you located right now?
I'm in Boca Raton, Florida.
Okay, so you're in Florida. Are you at Full Sail?
FAU.
FAU, okay. And are your plans to leave Florida and go elsewhere to achieve that? Where?
Wherever there's a market. So probably gonna end up in LA for a bit.
Okay. These are like I'm using you to help with this answer and what I would tell you or other composers, because for it depends on what they want to do. I know composers that have come out of the school I went to and they're 10 times the composer I am, and they haven't made it. And I know of composers that might not be as high as them that make it. I have somehow survived. Throughout my career, from my career's viewpoint, it's weird saying that because I still feel like I have a lot to learn and gain, even where I'm at. I've learned that if you can survive and improve and work on your craft, work on improving, then you can thrive as long as you keep pushing. And for me, I dealt with a lot of adversity moving to Los Angeles, and it really is humbling. You may be the best composer in your program, the worst composer of the program, the middle one, it doesn't matter. When you go to somewhere like Los Angeles or you just go out there, you're all the same. You're all humbled. And you have to survive. Because I'll give you some, I'm sorry this is a long one.
No, this is
a long
perfect.
answer. When I went to Los Angeles, it was good at first, but then it was terrible. And I ended up with a negative bank account. I couldn't make it. I was going to have to go. The dream was going to end 5 or 6 years ago. The dream was over, man. Over. Told my mom, I'm out. I can't do it. And then I ended up applying for Phantom Power as an admin assistant. And I got the job. Not because I was good or a good fit for an admin job at a trailer music library, but because I went to the same school as the boss. Which is random, because who the heck goes to Ohio University and ends up in film in any way? But what I'm trying to say is, you have to survive, and you're going to deal with tons of adversity, more than you think. Maybe not. Maybe you'll get lucky. You'll be an assistant with someone who is doing, maybe be a good composer's assistant with someone who's high up, and you have a good living there, and then you end up with really good gigs. But that's very rare. Most of us will deal with a lot of adversity and struggle. And it will be hard, especially if you go to Los Angeles. LA is where I got my job. So I thank LA for that. But it gets harder and harder, especially with rents going up and things like that. So you have to persevere, and you have to expect that. You have to expect the adversity. You have to expect harsh criticism from people. And you have to learn how to rebound. You have to learn to get back up. Because I've seen a lot of people fail. And I've seen a lot of people have hope and everything, and not get up once they get down. You know? And I tell every composer now that talks to me like the same thing: survive and thrive, survive and thrive, survive and thrive. Because that's important. And you have to keep pushing, no matter what. I'm sorry if it was a long spiel, but Like that's a loaded question, much more loaded, because um, as a composer, there's a lot of us, and there's way too many programs now in schools for film composition, to the point that our job is oversaturated. There's too many of us. So that's something to keep in mind. Not trying to discourage anyone. I'm trying to say it's hard, but if you hold on and you keep pushing, there's a way. There is. Because if people see that you push just by talking to them, then they'll give you something. They'll help you out. Especially if you learn the business. Learning the business, it helps a lot. Because that's something you're not going to learn from composing. No, you're not. You have to learn the business, learn how to talk to people about the business, learn how some deals might be better than other deals, at least at first, especially when you're starting out. There's a lot of
it's the same advice that I got when I was first starting, is just do you. You can look up people like Hans Zimmer, or you can look up, other famous composers and see what they're doing, and kind of observe their skill sets and how they communicate through those tools. But ultimately, it really comes down to you, and it comes down to your story and your experiences. You can sit there and you can learn a million things from YouTube, and you can, try to compose all day, every day. But what it's going to come down to is your connections with human beings and your connections with your community, and what that means. So if somebody on screen is crying and you have like crying music playing, then it doesn't convey as well as if you're playing music because you lost your father too. That changes everything. When something in your life becomes the food for that moment, because it actually means the world to you, then the music sounds different. And nobody has your experiences. So those are the one thing that you can really hang on to and mine them. Just go deep inside of them and listen to the undercurrents of your identity and bring those out into the sonic space.